Welcome back to
Ami's house.
Wow, Michael.
I'm outnumbered.
The ultimate crossover episode. Today, worlds collide. We've had alum on the pod, Dove standalone. But today, I feel like my wives are meeting my girlfriend in a Jerry Springer-esque.
Why am I the girlfriend?
Side chick?
Who said you're the girlfriend?
You did.
We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it. This is the crossover episode the world has been waiting for. Ami's house and distant cousins. The band is in the house. Welcome, boys.
Thank you for having us on Michael's house.
You guys
What
asked
did
for
you
it.
say?
You finally got it.
What did you say?
I'm trying, Michael. I'm trying. For
I
you.
think I'm just gonna get ripped apart because you guys both in different ways have to put up with me. But this is gonna be fun.
We're gonna get into it.
You're asking your wives and your girlfriends to talk
He
about
coming home
you.
with me. He coming home with me.
That's
Jerry
offensive.
Springer show?
That's
I
offensive.
understand you guys have an album coming out.
Oh, Michael's in radio promo.
Oh, wow.
We do, but it's
Who
cool.
told you about that? Wow.
Ami mentioned it.
I
Over.
mentioned it a couple of times.
And over again.
We do have an album
It's out.
It's called Out of the Darkness, and really meaningful project for us, I think I could say. We were in the middle of making another record, or close to finished with another record, and then, this year happened, and we sort of pivoted. The songs just came pouring out. I think we all felt like the need to sort of just get stuff out of our system for ourselves, just to sort of try and just a healing process for ourselves to try and express how we were feeling to each other and to ourselves, and so really came out of that. Not to make the mood heavy.
That was quite a departure from how it started. We were giggling and having fun and buzzkill. No, but
This year has been a buzzkill.
Yeah,
But also
it's been hard.
But the Jewish way in tragedy is there's like so much beauty and tragedy that come like it's been the most impactful, like life-changing year in the worst of ways, and also just in the most significant of ways, in the sense of like there's like a normalcy bias that you fall into year after year after year, and then every once in a while like these horrible events or just paradigm shifts have happened, I think, for all of Jews all over the world, and then everybody in their own individual lanes. And we were in a musical lane where we were doing secular music for a long time, almost as a conscious departure.
Term.
I know, and we
Don't
could
use
talk
it.
about it.
Oh, I hate that term.
Next
Secular
episode.
music.
No. We could talk about
We
it.
did, right.
David hates it.
I feel like music in its on its own is a very divine thing. It's in terms of making it, listening to it. It can be. It has the power to be as divine as anything we know, and I think we know as human beings. So I hate the word secular music unless it's like what you're using for what you think of as like bad music, which I would describe as music done for the wrong reasons.
which is the
possibly.
point I was about to make.
Sorry, I know it's annoying to say. But
I said
really
for
can't
lack of a
stand
term,
it.
On this podcast, nobody cuts Ami off.
I just did.
Okay.
His girlfriends don't.
The first and the last. She knows her place. She knows her place.
Uninvited.
I say it in the word. You have to speak in ways sometimes people can understand.
Yeah.
No, but
I get it.
I do think that there's been, at least I'll speak for myself. I do divide. For years, you look at things as Jewish music, secular music, for lack of a better term, because it just means the things that maybe maybe it's also coming from a modern Orthodox background. Michael and I come from this world where you're constantly kind of trying to be in the shadows as a daywalker with your Jewish identity, proud but internal. And we all know about each other, but then, my father grew up, didn't wear his yarmulke to work. We don't want to cause a stir. We don't want to draw attention.
Well, we have caused a stir.
That's what I'm saying. If you're davening in public in a parking lot,
People are
growing up
paying
in
attention.
you grew up in Israel, but growing up in Israel, like it's
Yeah.
everywhere. But here we're like, oh God, people are watching us. And I think post October 7th, there's been this just shift. I speak for myself, but I see it everywhere. It's like, if everyone's going to notice us in a terrible light or try to throw this negativity at us, I say like, respond with the best of us and the best things we can make. And I know it sounds maybe corny to say that, but it was very hard to be insincere in the weeks, days, months after October 7th. It's been hard to be insincere. And so when I look at Jewish music now, at least for me, it has lost any sense of like the coolness hierarchy of music, where it's like there's Jewish music and then there's all that other music that like that's the legit music. And maybe you never had those distinctions. I don't believe you, but no.
No, I know what you mean though. That there's something different, like that inherently. It doesn't have to be different.
Sure.
It doesn't have to be divided like that. Sure, there is definitely a division where there's something overtly Jewish, where it's using Hebrew words that are from a prayer and something like that. That's understandable. But there's such a huge spectrum, as we know, of everything in between. What I think is interesting with our process about this was that we didn't set out and say, okay, now let's write a Jewish album because that's where we're from. It was really just like you said, it just happened organically and naturally. And David had some of these song ideas, sent them to us. It felt like personally after October 7th that process of hearing the song ideas based on Tehillim and everything just felt very cathartic for all of us. And then once it was, as we were creating it, we kind of had the discussion, well, are we doing this as distant cousins? Are we going to do it as a different band?
Yeah.
Even my tone right now is sounding Jewish. So yeah, I
Ben
mean,
Dodim, something,
yeah.
we do a translation or something.
So,
Yeah.
so it started with David.
yeah, there's
As
some
everything
beautiful-
does in my world. Welcome to my world.
David's house.
So literally what happened, really, the way this got started was October 8th, I guess. As soon as, Dov could get on the phone, because Dov and Ami are both Orthodox Jews who don't, use their phones and use any technology during the holidays. So October 7th happened on a Jewish holiday. As soon as it was over, one of the, we all connected with each other immediately. And I had mentioned to the guys that a couple of years ago I got sick, and it's kind of, everyone says it, but to read Psalms, to read Tehillim when you're not feeling well, but I really was shooken up and started to read Psalms, and when I would see a line that jumped out to me, I would often just try to make up a little tune almost for myself to help me remember the line that felt meaningful. And then I mentioned to the guys, I've been doing this. I've been kind of I have a couple of ideas, I think, I'm saving them on my phone, And then when I spoke to Dov, he was like, can you please send me those ideas you were talking about? Because I think I need to hear them right now. That was October 8th. You know what the funny thing was? Is
You didn't send it to me.
I started looking through the ideas, and I got a little nervous because I felt like maybe they weren't good enough.
Yeah.
And then I actually wrote another one, which is actually the first song on the record. So that's I started, and we finished writing it
So he
together.
said, send me the ones you're working on. It's like a classic industry trick. You're like, I'm working on a lot of songs. He said, send me them. You're like, oh,
I'm
I
like,
got
no, I don't know. If
So
they're
you
good
wrote a
enough
brand
to
new one
send,
from scratch and sent it around. Yes. And that
which
was
ended
like,
up being, probably the best
Dimati,
one.
yeah.
So that's an interesting. Sometimes when you have to, the best comes out.
Do you guys want to play that?
yeah,
Want to?
yeah, we'll
Oh,
play
sure,
Dimati.
yeah.
So this was the first song you wrote on October 8th.
Literally,
Yeah.
literally sat down and this line jumped out to me. It's the line is mentions Hazina el Dimati. Listen to my tears, and the idea that jumped out to me. The idea of tears being so tangible that you would hear them. I knew exactly what that meant on October 8th. And since then, I've seen this beautiful thing that we keep talking about and mentioned in the Talmud in Masechet Brachot. The rabbis say about this pasuk, they say, Afilu sha'arei tefila nin'alu, sha'arei dim'a lo nin'alu. So it means like, since the destruction, I think they are referencing the temple, the Beit HaMikdash, the gates of prayer have been shut down, but the gates of tears have remained open. So feel the same way about music these days.
Yeah.
אל תעזבני, אל תרחק ממני, אל תעזבני, אל תרחק ממני, אל תעזבני, אל תרחק ממני, שמע תפילתי, האזינה אל דמעתי, שמע תפילתי, האזינה אל דמעתי, אל תעזבני, אל תרחק ממני, אל תעזבני, אל תרחק ממני, שמע תפילתי, האזינה אל דמעתי, שמע תפילתי, האזינה אל דמעתי, הצילני הושיעני, הצילני נא, הצילני הושיעני, הצילני נא, Come on, Michael. שמע תפילתי, האזינה אל דמעתי, שמע תפילתי, האזינה אל דמעתי, האזינה אל דמעתי, האזינה אל דמעתי.
Beautiful. This feels weird being the only audience member.
It's not the smallest audience we've had.
I was thinking during that song though how
It's the biggest. No.
I find like
Yeah.
sometimes the lyrics, the meaning will change. Often actually will change over time, and I know that in the beginning for me, like when you sent that one, I was thinking of it more literally, like the way it is in Tehillim, where it's kind of to God, that you're speaking to God, like Shema Tefilati, and don't turn away, Al Tirchak Mimeni. But I feel like for me, it's morphed into speaking to the general public, speaking to humans everywhere, like as Jews, like listen to us, don't turn away. Ha'azina al dimati is also like pay attention to our tears. I mean,
That's so interesting. I mean, I help to be super self-indulgent and keep talking about our own songs without anyone asking. But I more and more feel like what it is a message to myself, not to shut down, you know? Because I feel like there's a sort of a psychological process with mourning where I felt it with my own father, where at the beginning there's almost like a thing, I think there's a psychological term for it, where when something terrible happens, your endorphins kick in or something kicks in, and it's almost like a high. Sometimes
to compensate
people
for
talk
the
about
grief.
when a parent passes away or something, just for the beginning to kind of get you through. Your body does something, but then there's all sorts of other things that happen, like depression and sadness. And I feel often these days just shut down, like things are too overwhelming to even think about. So I often think like the tears, the emotions, like don't shut yourself down.
Nice.
Yeah.
What I felt like connecting to the lyric in this song is the listen to my tears part was that October 7th was heartbreaking on two dimensions. One, that it happened and when there was the life that was lost and the suffering and the hostages and torture and all the horrible things, and then the world's seeming apathy for it, or it feels a little awkward to like just easily condemn what happened and easily stand in solidarity with Jewish people who've stood in solidarity when other groups have suffered, and just to see that kind of makes me want to give up. I'm like, is this how it happens? Is this how historically Jews experience mass suffering? And is the indifference of the world or the celebration of what just happened? And then everyone going, I was like, well, you know, there's this shouting into the darkness. Where is everybody? And we're just, what are we asking for here? And this was in just the weeks that followed, immediately before anything else took place and before things could potentially confuse people. There was just a lot of that, and I felt it, of like this indifference, this I don't want to get it's controversial to condemn something because it's Israel. Like, is that how far we've come, how far down we've gone? And so to listen to my tears, it feels like, you know, we're human beings too, that we're not asked to be held to a different standard, but simply the same one as every human being.
And it's, sadly, it's almost a year later, and it's as resonant as it was on October 8th. You know, like, I don't know if we would have predicted that October 8th. I have a question for you guys.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. If you've made it this far, we want to let you know that Ami's House is now on Patreon. We love doing extra content, bonus footage with every episode. The best way to support us is to head on over to Patreon, become a guest, and support the show for $5 a month.
If you like watching Ami cut me off, Patreon is a...
Patreon.com/Ami's House for bonus content. Thanks so much for your support, and become a guest.
So it's a two-part question. First, I want to hear about like where you guys were at as a band before you made this turn, or maybe whatever. And then I have a follow-up question to that. So like, give me like brag about yourselves. Where were you at commercially, audience-wise, as a band before this?
Have you seen How to Train Your Dragon 3, Michael? Well, like I said, I actually do see this distinction in that making this album was this conscious choice of proudly going into a Jewish space, which I think for a long time, you know, and you guys can chime in as far as being of consciously deciding like we're, you know, to make certain music for a wider audience, and that the music that we were making, you know, because you guys came from really like in the Jewish music world, prominent spaces of making big impacts in that world. And when the three of us got together, we wanted to try doing our own thing, which was music that was in English, that had universal messaging and appeal, and sort of in that pop space of, and we were trying to build our audience through getting our music into film and television, and we were successful at doing that. We got music in commercials, trailers.
So specifics on here.
Yeah, so when we started, I could take you back to the beginning.
Yeah.
I moved to LA in 2011, 2012, we started writing together. And I had come from doing music for commercials, like instrumental background music and some original music of mine. Then the three of us got together, and we started writing and pitching for commercials. And right away, our early stuff was getting the attention of music supervisors in the industry. And the first song we ever wrote together, On My Way, was in a Macy's commercial. One of our first songs that we wrote called Raise It Up was in a show called Graceland on USA.
And did you set out specifically to be like a commercial songwriting band, or did you have ambitions to be something other than that?
Well, the band evolved out of us wanting to make music, make a living, have a career, and do it. Like, we wanted to make music and when you decide to have a career as a musician, that's different than a hobbyist who's just making music in your bedroom. And then, I mean, each of us come at it from different angles and different spaces, but for me, I was fulfilled by the idea of being able to make music, organize sound in some way, and have people respond to it. Okay.
But I think, pretty honestly, we did sit down and say, let's write some music that will be fine. Right? No, I mean, because we all came from band backgrounds.
Yes.
It's very comfortable for us.
You had already done that thing.
Yes.
You had already been in bands.
Yeah, and it's not that we were necessarily writing that out, because I mean, look, that's what we're doing, and we love performing and all that.
It came full circle in a way,
right? Ironically, it was this licensing company, Secret Road, that we were working with in Los Angeles that was like, okay, you know, for getting your music into these commercials and everything, people want to see that you guys are a real band, so you need to book a show. We're like, I mean, obviously we love performing, and that's our background.
What's the band name? We're like Rosenblatt, Swirsky, Kozak, and I think Dove came up. I was like, distant cousins. Let's do that. It has this familial. It made sense, but it all evolved out of wanting to work, make a living, and get our songs placed in this. And it wasn't, we had come from the band world of like, getting together in the garage, jamming, and seeing what happens. And this was a little more calculated of like, let's look at this and see what can happen. And ironically, it took us right back into being evolved into a band that's playing shows and building a fan base.
Well, I think what really quickly happened, I think for the three of us, I could speak, is that we really enjoyed each other's company and enjoyed working together. And it's a little fun. It's almost funny because like, I don't know that maybe now we've become more and more like each other, but like it wouldn't be an obvious, when people saw it from the outside, I don't know that everyone's like, oh, this makes sense that the three of you are like, getting together and to make
then
music.
they heard the music.
Then they heard the music, and really we do. I think we love each other, and our families love each other, and really there was a sorry, but and that really has been the thread I feel like for us, and it has at a certain point I felt like it, and I feel like this way now. It's almost more become like, what do we have to do to spend time together? Tell us what we can do. We'll do it. We'll come clean your yard.
But to answer your question, sometimes creatively taking yourselves out of it and just saying, let's just like write whatever, and like assigning yourself a certain direction, a certain thing to say, let's, the commercial world, like advertising is using a certain style, and it just takes such a pressure off of you to be able to just, and then it frees you up to actually find yourself through it all again, which is really cool.
Wait, I still want you guys to brag about yourselves. Then so you got some songs into Amazing Commercial.
I have the best memory. I'm the archive of the band.
Yeah,
so.
what happened next?
Well,
okay. Bragger.
The best bragger.
The best bragger. Nobody brags better than me. So braggadocious. Big league, distant cousins. So aim small, miss small. Like we aimed in this world of sync licensing, which is of getting your music on TV and stuff. We got it on a show called Graceland. We had a Macy's ad. American Idol used our music. We had our song "Are You Ready" was featured in the end credits of "This Is Where I Leave You."
That was a turning point.
That was a
I
big
remember
turn.
seeing it in theaters and being very excited for you guys.
Yeah, and then we got to the red carpet, the premiere, the whole Hollywood thing. Met the directors and the actors in the movie, and
we had a heart attack because the three of us were sitting there. They invited us to this premiere, and we also know that like sometimes people they'll change it last minute, and we were sitting there, and they're like, it's the last song, and the movie was wrapping
as we're
up.
watching.
And as we're watching, sitting there and our family, everybody's all excited for us, and the last song that we thought, it was Alexi Murdoch, and we're like, did they switch us out? Amazing. And we're fans, but we're looking at each other like, shit, they took our song out. And then there was like one after the ending scene, there's a final scene that our
the whole time
to
the next time he goes, what's happening? Every time we're watching this movie, everyone's in their big premiere, and we're like,
Well,
it was
also
like,
what?
Do you remember that?
The
We were freaking
composer
out.
of the movie kind of based his. You could tell that he based the music, or I don't know if they found our song because it was so like in the vein. But it would start every time, and it would sound like the beginning of our song. And he'd be like, "Here it comes!"
Yeah.
And I was like,
You said famously when you were sitting in the theater and heard your song come on, you went, I felt nothing.
Well, that was a different point. I remember saying that. I said a lot of stupid things, by the way, last time.
Thank
God nobody cared.
David says that repeatedly after his wedding. I'm like, how is it? He goes, I felt nothing.
Well, that idea is just that the process is really the most enjoyable part of things.
It's not
but it was really cool. And then just getting into that world more and more, and we ended up composing a show for the last couple of years, and I feel like we learned so much, and it really is amazing, and we love doing it.
Back to the bragging timeline.
Yeah, Brad.
Well,
Then I have
the
another
movie,
question.
that was a turning point for us, and then we started doing a lot of a continual, we had a really hot streak of songs being used and reused in commercials and TV, and then because we were like a one-stop shop and could produce all our own music together in David's back house studio in LA, the same people that were placing our music were asking, can you guys do like custom music? And we started doing theme songs for shows. So we did the theme song for a kids show called Archibald's Next Big Thing. We did a theme song for Where's Waldo on Universal Kids.
It was all through DreamWorks Animation. We developed a really close relationship with DreamWorks music at DreamWorks Animation. She's awesome and just super loyal and kept coming back to us with projects.
And they're connected to like the different networks like Netflix and DreamWorks and Nickelodeon. We did a song that was in the Loud House movie, original music that we customized and got to that, and that led us to also long form composing, where we're doing all the music. And we did a kids show called Dewdrop Diaries, which was on Netflix. We did
on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess they're
is
all
on there.
It'll always be
on Netflix
Forever.
or Hulu.
It was so it's on Netflix kids show, and we did not only original songs for it but score, and so it was allowed us to really just be creative together constantly, which was a beautiful thing. And along that, as that's going on, we're also releasing original music and albums and playing shows, and
So
was able to grow a local fan base.
The
which is
reason I
cool.
ask is because I want to know. Well, first of all, you don't brag about yourself in that way enough. So I didn't even know all the details
I do.
of that.
No.
So I just didn't know the specific. But also, so where were you? We know where you're getting your inspiration from now. Where did you draw from when you were writing those songs? And the answer might just be like nothing, like whatever.
I
got the job
felt
done.
nothing.
But I want to hear about it.
Go for it.
I think the truth is, and this is we've realized also in our work with DreamWorks, and even doing like what you might think of as like even like a little kids show. What you start to realize is everyone. We all walk around trying to be moved, wanting to be what's the word when you're elevated?
Impacted,
Transcendent.
Transcend. You want those moments, no matter what it is. Think of anything you love, that like in art or in TV, movies, music. That's what you're looking. So we started to realize that even if it's like a Macy's commercial or it's a kids show, we have to dig down somewhere deep to the place where it moves us, at least in some way. And really, in the end of the days, those were the ones that were usually most successful.
Yeah.
Like we'd write a song sometimes where we were, just kind of paint by numbers, like this is a no miss, like this is the greatest thing, and we'd be shocked, like it wouldn't get used. And then something that was more, usually, it's not always this way, but something that we actually felt would often seem like it would, even in the most commercial sense, translate to other people. So we always were trying to write music that would do that that would move ourselves.
Yeah, I have a very like childlike, playful relationship with music. So for me, I'm good if I'm having fun and it's cool, and it really doesn't quite matter if I'm like playing with ideas and sounds and it's cooking. I'm having a good time. Like I'm always always constantly curious about it. Music has always been this cool mystery that I've forever on this journey to uncover and understand. So I love music theory, and so playing it, composing it, recording it, producing it, for me, as that's all happening in terms of where I draw it from, it's just the most fun thing, and
I think that's
that I find that I could do. And there's different mediums for it, like performing has its own energy, and remember we talked to Alex about that, like that's this transcendent, engageable experience. But the cool thing about music is that like it's fun even just doing it alone with the three of us, or just by myself, discovering sounds and then getting to share that. So there's almost a childlike curiosity that you never lose. I've never lost with music.
Do you guys ever butt heads over that? Because I think that's something you and I butt heads over with.
Sure.
Because I think you have the same relationship to
Everything,
to podcasting, or to it's just sort of like it's like fun. So just do it, and I'm always more like I want to do something that's like,
you have standards,
outlive us.
You mean you have like standards?
No, well, it's different standards. It's different. I think we both want different things out of it. Do you guys butt heads over that?
I don't know if we butt heads over that. I mean, we certainly have different ways of getting there, and I think that's what's cool about a trio in particular. Because I know I've been in bands where there's 2 people and 4 people, and there's something about this odd number of a trio that's amazing. Because we have, with everything we do, whether it's that or whatever, we have a very clear rule for years of like, if you're outvoted, that's it. No hard
2
feelings.
against 1.
It's 2
We
against
really
1.
do.
That's it. Like about everything, and then just
you're like,
whatever.
okay.
You don't get hard feelings, so we don't get
Unless
into
I
it.
really refuse.
In
Right.
trust,
Yeah.
trust again, to be cheesy and corny, but trust is
and
the
respect.
big thing.
Trust and respect are the two
Because
things.
like when I'm outvoted, and there's been times I really disagree, but I think to myself, well, if Dove and Ami both feel this way, then I'm probably
and respect,
wrong.
Could I
and
hear
respect. We have to shut and respect.
Can I hear
Are
about
you
one
trying
of
to
those
hurt me?
times? What's that? Can I hear about one of those debates? that
One
you
of
guys
those
had?
debates?
Yeah.
Well, just recently, actually, really recently, and I don't know how specific exactly I want to get, but we've turned down
What's happening?
Are we okay?
I disagree with this.
See, and he fixes the mic stands too, so you got to
Because
get
it's
him.
fun. He's
I
a
fix,
kid. He's
I fix
playing.
everything.
Really, I don't want to get too specific just because I don't want to burn bridges or hurt anyone's feelings by any chance. But we
Wild card here. I don't know
But
what's
there was
coming.
a well-paying gig,
Yeah.
a good paying gig, and like we all have families, we need to make money. And there was an offer for a gig that felt like it was really a a special opportunity with an artist that we respect, and a meaningful opportunity, and I thought we should take the money. And I was out
And
voted. Macklemore exactly wanted us to come and sing back up.
To demonstrate.
Oh man.
And we and they both thought it was a better idea to turn the money down
And write Hindi Hall.
And I don't know. I'm not even sure. I still agree with it, but I was 2 against 1, so I'm like going.
So
with
that's
it.
like a
And I'm
career
trusting
technical
that it's the right
disagreement.
decision, and that's the way it is.
That's rough. Also,
Yeah.
because you're giving out money for that. That's
Yeah.
It
You
happens.
want to get involved? You want to get involved? Should we debate?
if you added a fourth, I would destroy the
Well,
band.
then you're at a standstill. 'cause then
Michael
it's
would
2 against
drive
2.
it into the ground.
You don't know what to
First,
do.
they'd be like, "Dove, let's do our own."
But I will add, creatively,
You already asked me. Let's go.
creatively, it happens constantly
Yeah.
through it. Just go there, and then you end up. There have been many times where I've proven myself wrong, and then liked the version that I didn't want to begin with at the end. And I'm like, if I had stuck to what I thought, you give it time and space, and out of that friction is where you get something really
You
cool.
know what Rick Rubin says about that? Have you heard him talk about that?
What's that?
Like,
I have my issues with Rick.
you can't argue about anything in the studio until you try it.
Yeah.
Like,
Don't
that's
knock
the
it till
only-
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also,
Don't knock it.
you know, and it,
Try it.
Still not perfect.
It's not. It pisses me off.
it's
I
something
know.
I realize more and more in life that, you know, as you know, a musician, or, you know, if you're a writer or an artist, there's a big thing about, like, and I think we were raised with a lot of this idea that it's like the one genius sitting alone, you know, talking to the gods and coming back with this amazing stuff, like, you know, Bob Dylan, the lone guy under the spotlight. And as you meet, not that I've met Bob Dylan, but these people, you realize they have these really long-standing teams usually with them, who they couldn't do it without them. And the more I live, I value people who want to work with me and share a similar vision, and together we can make something happen. It's so much more powerful than being on. No, I don't think anyone does things alone. The more I see things, it's like everyone's got teams. The more successful you are,
Things
the
that
bigger
last.
your minion is.
Things that last.
You know?
Yeah. Is it hard? I mean, I hear you say that, but have you given up the ambition or the dream to be the one guy on stage that everyone comes to see? I feel like
I have opportunities. I mean, I think we all do have opportunities where we do that kind of thing. And I'll tell you the truth, I rather be playing with the guys, but most of the time. But there's something to that. But the moment you're under the stage alone, that's just the moment, you know. If we're talking, we do this for our livelihoods. We do this. This is our business. This isn't like one night under the lights. This is like the way we feed our families. And then like teams become incredibly
I also
valuable.
think, I mean, the way you're framing it, I hear you. It's like that kind of youthful vision of like being the star.
Yeah.
But I think, like David said, like we each have opportunities and outlets where we stand alone and shine. And I actually think that it adds so much value when we take that experience and come and bring it back to the band. Like I know for myself, for example, for a few years in Nashville, I was leading prayer services, leading davening as Shaliach Tzibor, like leading, and that whole experience, which might not be exactly the same, but that I think built me up in a certain way where I feel different now coming back to the band. And so each of us, and Ami obviously has his own empire, you know, so bringing that, you know,
But
So
and
strongly.
he brings that back into the band.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, now in a very serious way, we see like even incorporating a lot of Ami's comedy into the set now.
Yeah,
You
we
know,
get
he was
these-
always
We get these vicious comments on Instagram.
Well, that's from the
Vicious.
no, but it's just such a cool hybrid. Like it doesn't feel like it's competing. It feels like it's a really cool moment to showcase that, bring it back in. It actually, like we were just on tour, and it was kind of part of the set every night at a specific spot because some of the songs, especially about this topic of October 7th, are really heavy. And for dynamic shift, it was incredible to have like that comedy to lighten it up and then bring us back, and everybody's on this ride with us. hopefully.
killed.
You know,
I feel like he's added a lot to the
using a
podcast
different
also.
phrase in
For the
context.
podcast.
God
Yeah,
damn
a lot.
So, yeah.
Wouldn't be the same without him.
Not
Are you
crushed.
thinking of calling it
Murdered.
Ami's house at
Crushed.
some point?
Well, we're drawn the line.
Well,
Breakaway.
I would. Well, I forgot where we're at. I was listening to Dove.
No, Michael was saying that at any moment now he feels the same way about the podcast, and he's going to call it Ami's house.
You've been
Yeah.
contributing a lot, I think.
Yeah, I've been contributing.
It's
a
gotten
lot.
to the
Which
point.
has been really nice.
I have always said, like, and coming from stand up versus having the team. Oh my God! Like, when we get together and do our shows, like I said, doing little bits of shtick within the set, it's so refreshing to just be able to say, okay, here's a little taste, and not have to do.
I just never know if they're serious or just telling me that. Like, oh, it's better when we're together.
But I will say fundamentally, like, we came into this band as individuals, and we had respect for each other as individual artists. Mm-hmm. And I think because that was the inception, as those, like, David comes from the Moshav band and played in that for years, and I was watching him for years. Dove was in Blue Fringe, these two, like, prominent Jewish bands in the scene, and just coming as three independent artists to make something better than the sum of its parts. Like, there's always been this respect for that space, and I think that's carried all the way through as we each do our own things and then do something really unique together.
And with music, when you play with people, like, there is, I can't explain, it's almost hard to explain the power, because I grew up in a band, like Ami said, Moshav, and when I was younger, I don't think I understood the power in having musicians together, all in it 100%. Because so often you'll see music played. Say you go to a wedding, and there's a great wedding band, right? Each one of them is the greatest musician. And it all adds up to a good wedding band, but it doesn't go further than that. And you're like watching it, you're like, why doesn't it? They're all the best musicians. And you realize there's a reason. They're not in the same vision 100%.
Vision of what?
Of be in the music. Like, this means everything to us. We're giving fully of ourselves. In the moment. It doesn't even have to be like you go home. But in the moment, you look to the guy next to you, and he cares as much as you do. I don't think people realize how meaningful that is, because you're in a wedding band, you look over to the guy next to you and he's like, are we done yet?
Right.
How much are we getting paid? And when I look over in this band, I see a reflection of how much I feel the music, and that is something you cannot buy. And it
creates its own entity, its own singular thing.
And it's really
one band, one sound, drumline.
Yeah, and for me, I would put that as like.
But it's true.
I would put that as musically as. I would put that musically as the most important thing to me these days. Like, there is nothing more valuable than getting together with other human beings who are all in this music at the same level that I am.
And what is it that you're connecting to? The song, what you're doing to the audience?
It's the whole thing. It's that I can look over and know that these guys care about this thing, this baby.
What's the thing?
It's fully, it's all encompassing. It's like the song, the note, singing in tune, being in Distant Cousins, with every note of the record, every second of the show, every second in the van, driving to the show, every second hanging out late at night after the show.
Sounds amazing.
Saying happy birthday. Like, it really is. It's like, I know so many amazing musicians, but it's not, sometimes I'll play with them. It's just, for me, it doesn't get close to the same thing.
What is it, do you think, that you guys are all connecting on? Like, what is it? What's the one thing
you mean technically,
you guys all want,
or
that you all want?
Well, look, one thing distinct and unique about music in particular is you're creating something, and then when you have done your 1,000 hours with it together, you kind of just get to sit inside of it and be the audience, and be like you're giving to the audience, they're giving back to you, but you also are like at one with them when it's really good. And because we put in our 1,000 hours over the years doing our songs and putting in all that time and seed work, like there's a point where there's that transcendent sense where like we're just in it and it's happening and it feels like it's being channeled, and there's like this link and rhythm. If you're gonna get technical musically, like being locked into our own rhythm, where it's a rhythm that we've developed together as a band, as opposed to, some bands will play with a click track and they lock into like a tempo, and there's like a feel to that. There's a certain style to that. But with us, sometimes it slows down, sometimes it speeds up, but it does it together in this way that can only happen with time and chemistry that you develop and trust over time.
Yeah. I mean, I just think, yes, and no, I also think that there is a level for sure, a little less abstract, and I don't know if this is what you're getting at, but I do think that all three of us have a shared vision beyond all of that, emotional and artistic thing, is we all wanted to succeed. And I think that's part of what David was saying, is that we all wanted to succeed. And at this stage in our lives, it's for very different reasons, I think. I'll speak for myself, than when I was 20. And it's not about like success of what?
And then Ami will speak for you.
Exactly.
just
It's not
getting
about
pummeled.
the success for the sake of it or for being well
Expected this.
known. It's for the sake of, and David says this all the time, like, what can we do so that we can keep working together? Like, successful so that we can keep working together and take care of our families. And I think that that's an important thing. Like, when we look on stage and we each feel like we have each other's backs and we're in this together, it's because we all wanted to succeed for that reason, not for like an individual, like,
Ego.
I want to be successful, but we want this thing that we've created to just have longevity.
It's also like a mystical, spiritual thing. It really is. And it
And
sounds
there's that
corny.
level too.
No, it is. I mean, you can't explain it. It's like,
Well, what is music? What the hell? What the hell is
what
music?
Why are
it
we here?
literally is.
I remember
the
Stephen
muse.
Sondheim, who's the big Broadway Sondheim.
Sure.
Yeah, he said once, he's this proficient composer, sophisticated, knows it in and out, has done elaborate arrangements, some of the biggest Sweeney Todd and biggest things you ever. But he sits in an interview and he still goes, "What is music? What is going on there? What are we doing? What are we accessing? We're taking these brass instruments, we're blowing wind into it, vibrations are happening, and at a certain point, I don't even understand it.
I also
and
think-
if you think about it, the closer you get to this stuff, and the more you unpack it, the more you realize, like, I have no idea what's going on.
The
And that's cool.
closest, I think, is two very different things. One is, I think, like a great sports team would know what the feeling of, like, how important each piece is, and that you can pass the ball to that guy and he wants you to succeed, you want him to succeed, and you want to win together. And the other one is if you're in an amazing minion where, like, it's really taking off and you look around and everyone's in it, locked in to this, to trying to transcend.
You said minion.
Oh,
A minion, yeah.
I love that.
Like aiming to transcend, because in a way it's true. Like, that's what we're all doing that too. We just want to get into that moment where like, and it gives you so much energy.
But you have to
and
get up so
excitement.
early for that, you know?
On tour,
Not
we
always
were
easy,
actually like
but-
joking about giving each other like a game ball, like the same way at a sports team.
Yeah,
'Cause, like,
MVP. We'll often say
each
that after
show,
a game.
someone kind of carries it a little bit more. Someone wasn't feeling it; they were bogged down by a technical thing. So we were joking, like, you get the game ball tonight. So that's
Was there any part of you guys that came together and wanted to prove that three guys who had been successful on the Jewish music scene could do something that was broader than that?
For
and
sure.
what was did you still have something to prove?
I think when you grow up listening to the, you have in the Jewish music world, the religious music that you kind of immersed in, there's definitely a certain sense of credibility that you want to prove out there, like it can reach people. We live in a community, so there's that world that sort of knows itself and is insular, and then there's the outside world, and there's a ton of pressure in a modern Orthodox upbringing. I can speak to that, of like success and what you're doing, and like there's all these stigmas and stereotypes about Hollywood and the industry, and especially if you're going outside that box from the typical careers, they're like, the industry apparently is very difficult to make it. Very few people can do it. It's very hard business. And then
Not a lie, by the way.
not a lie. And
Kids out there,
I
don't
don't-
do this at home.
a completely understandable sentiment, and given all of the things in life that especially in a Jewish life, in a Jewish community, it's totally legit. But so that builds a certain sense of in yourself, like, I'm gonna get out there in the wild, in the secular wild,
I think
and
it's
see what we can do. And listen, I meet Jewish musicians all the time who are like there's a certain sense of that positive feedback loop of like,
how'd you get that
American
song in the
Idol,
movie? And- all
American
that.
Idol. But now those lines are blurring because I call it like the Yishai Rebo effect.
Right.
Like I was there the other night in the garden, and then I'm just like, in the way that all art has been entrepreneurially unleashed, and you can just, I'm much more interested now in building an audience of a few thousand people who love us than like millions of people who kind of know who we are. And the fact that that's possible to do now in the marketplace of like what what music has become, the industry, the fact that it's shifted in that way is so exciting to me. And I don't care for the glitz and glam ego stroke of like 1 million records. I'd rather fill up 3,000 people in a theater night after night, a couple of hundred, and have a really meaningful experience, and that sustained me. I don't need that, but it's fun to try a little bit.
Yeah.
in the early days.
Yeah, I think October 7th for me was a huge reminder. Like at the end of the day, you're a Jew, and but in a nice way, it brings you back to like you called it before the youthful dream of being the star on stage. It's a lot of my ambitions pre October 7th feel more youthful than they used to.
Yeah, I can relate to that. Yeah, I feel literally like I grew up more or less like what I would call, I don't know, like a left wing Israeli. My family's
Smolit, what do you call
very
it?
left leaning family. Growing up, I was, went to back in the day to peace marches and. Fully supported, voted way left. Really, at a certain point, even like, right around before Rabin was shot, I remember as a teenager really believing that it was around the corner, like this was happening, like the peace is going to be a real thing. There's going to be two states and we're going to live side by side and it's going to work. And slowly over the years, kind of losing faith in that, and heartbreaking, so heartbreaking. And then I just feel like shattered now. Like I'm just trying to figure out which way's left, which way's right, what is happening.
Welcome to the Republican Party, dude.
Yeah. I don't know about that. I just feel very, so that innocence, that I think is what you said, youthful,
Right.
I feel
Innocence,
is just
And in the end,
gone.
It's sort of like, so what would be the point even? So I get up there and I have all my dreams, made, but like there's still the reality of all this brokenness and like, and being able to fix that a tiny bit is almost better than all of the dreams that I had for myself.
And that's interesting. I don't know that I've connected it as much to my own private creativity, or that's an interesting thought. I mean, I
don't know if I believe that.
Yeah, that's interesting. I haven't really thought of it in that context as much.
Well, I also think what you're doing, what we're doing, and the song. I mean, I don't know your dreams. I'd love to hear about them, but
I want to be in a trio.
oh, perfect.
We should do Distant Cousins
for it,
interviews, Michael.
Yeah.
That'll be
No,
the
but
next
I
Told
podcast
you, Michael,
follow-up.
you can't be in the band. Well, you're going to sing on the last song. We'll give you
No,
a
I'll
verse.
just interview
This
it.
is your audition.
But anyway, I was just saying, I feel like the outlet that we have, at least that we are trying to use, and of course, it's not healing the world, but in our small little circle, when we play a song like Dimati or something, and people come over afterwards and they feel like they've connected and it's healing in some way. So I think that plays into, the bigger picture of what we're trying to do, as opposed to the youthful dream of just like, let's be the biggest band in the world. It's like in our small little circle, we're having some sort of impact, hopefully,
Also, and back to the idea of the youthful dream, I think when you actually, the years you put in the long game of a creative endeavor and doing what you do, like making music as a career, sort of even October 7th aside, you kind of really get to understand what really matters and what's really fulfilling. And those little goalposts that you thought would be the markers of success that would make you feel accomplished
I
aren't.
feel nothing.
But they aren't really it. It's
Yeah.
the fact that you've made the things that have gotten you there that really resonate and get you fulfilled. And if you don't enjoy that process and you think those goals will get you there, like having that moment of spotlight for whatever reason in a particular instance, then you're going to be let down because it will just go. It's fleeting. And if you're not enjoying everything in the years that led up to that, you're failing. And then and we also are family men and we have wives and children. And I just never had any illusions about like being able to build a complete life that like it has a certain priority and hierarchy of values that like what we're doing and loving what we're doing and like loving what we're creating. Like at the end of the day, if we're loving that and feeling proud of those things creatively and proud of what we're doing personally, like then that youthful dream dissipates.
Yeah.
And in a post October 7th world, certainly you know what really matters and everything else drops away. Just like when any tragedy happens in your personal life, you lose somebody or something, you're like, nothing matters right now. None of the little career, like the inertia of all that crap, it goes away. And October 7th was this collective feeling of nothing matters. We're Jews, we're community, we have our families and our people and our music and our art, and that's the most important thing.
There's a famous TED Talk where this researcher went around asking people what the last scene in famous movies was. And so she, Jurassic Park, Ferguson, whatever, and everyone guessed the same scenes were the last scenes. And when she went back and watched the movie, she realized there was that scene, and then there was one more scene after.
Mm-hmm.
And so she maps it to this kind of story structure called the hero's journey, where you start in an ordinary world, you go on your whole adventure, and then you assume the end of the adventure is when you kill the bad guy. But the last scene in every good movie is you kill the bad guy and then you go back home. And so I'm thinking about Monticello almost like Monticello did it, like he was doing it. But it's almost like the pinnacle really is taking everything and then bringing it back home, and like playing back to the Jewish crowds, and like that. I would imagine feels fulfilling on a different level.
Sure. That's yeah.
And you have to go out to come back in. You have to do the journey to come back.
Yeah, that's like an aliyah, they say. You have
A
to
hero's
sit down.
journey,
You have to sit down to get called up. I certainly have that feeling a little from my own life because where I grew up on the Moshav and in the Moshav band.
That was like 73. So
I'm like, this is in a past lifetime. But we grew up, idolizing American rock and roll and rock stars, and in a certain way, taking for granted all the music we were growing up in. But then as I've lived, I realized that wow, oh my God, this is such valuable stuff that I just took for granted, just surrounding me, and that other sort of fantasy, what does it even mean? And then you meet people who have gone through it, and the toll it takes, and that kind of world of what it even means. And you just, to me, definitely the word integration has been a part of like the last year. It's like trying to take this everything and
when you
make it one thing.
Taste the reality a little bit, then you dispel the fantasy pretty quick.
Right.
You start to see people who've been on the other side of that curtain, and everyone, without fail, is like, not what you think. Jim Carrey's like, I wish everyone could become rich and famous so they could realize they don't want to be rich and famous. Like,
What was the biggest, what was your peak? Like, your peak Hollywood, like, peak, like... I'm a rock star.
We're on the red carpet.
Well, the biggest one was we were on a red carpet that shut down Hollywood Boulevard, and we got out of a limousine they sent for us with our clothes that were pretty silly looking back, that some fashion designer came and styled us. What is it called? A
Stylist.
And we stepped out of this limousine on Hollywood Boulevard that was shut down, and our song was blasting on the street.
Pretty cool.
That was pretty far.
And the photographers were like, cousins, come on, cousins, let's go, cousins.
And then you
I
also
fought with the paparazzi, back off! No, I didn't do that.
Anytime you get close to it, you realize also what a Wizard of Oz situation it is. Because I remember on the red carpet, we walked it, and reporters asking us questions that were like,
yeah, they don't know.
Nothing to do with reality, and you can't say, "Hey, that has nothing to do with reality." You just have to answer.
You guys made all the music for the movie, right?
They just got briefed.
It wasn't even a question. It was like, "How does it feel to compose this movie?" And we were like,
"Yeah."
So, David, as the director, now you've done a lot of movies. You've won a lot of Oscars. You've won a lot of awards.
First-time director.
First-time director.
So and you realize the Wizard of Oz, and look. There's still plenty of dreams. I'd love to win an Oscar, and I'd love to play Madison Square Garden.
For what?
I don't know. Just for being. No.
A Lifetime Achievement Award?
Yeah, exactly. But I don't want to talk as if I've seen everything and it's all a big facade, but there is a lot of facade in it, and again, you realize that the most meaningful stuff is your friend hitting you in the...
Yeah, sorry.
The most meaningful stuff is finding a few people that you can transcend together with, is the most meaningful stuff.
It's oftentimes you hear, like, so what was it like? You won the thing. And more often than not, you hear people go, it was well, look, they're not going to, like, deny the feeling, but they're also not going to... I haven't heard, dude, it's everything I could have hoped for to win that award. They'll say it from the stage, but it's just there's this sense of being underwhelmed, not what you thought. The fantasy totally peaks over the reality in terms of what you thought it would be, and it's like anything that has a certain pedestal status in your mind of what you say you're going to get, and like we work towards that if that's what you're doing.
That being said, we do want to share our music with as many people as possible. We love doing it. We love when people tell us they like what we're doing.
Yeah.
We love playing for rooms full of people. We haven't reached the amount of people we want to reach, and we love making the music, and we love getting better at it, and there's so much we want to do, and that's really exciting.
Yeah,
if you can keep doing it.
Yeah, like
there's
the
nothing more
tours-
exciting than
the
that.
tour that we just did and the tour that we're going to be doing
With
coming up
Matis.
in December with
Yeah.
Matis Yahoo
Yeah.
is an amazing opportunity putting us in front of all these people. And there have been moments for sure where we look out where we did on this past
There's
tour.
nothing like it.
Yeah, and you just you
That's it.
realize like
That's
that
the edge.
is a big part of what we're aiming for because of reaching all these ears and reaching all these people and the connection of it all. And that's not to say some of the best shows I know that I love as a listener and performer are the smallest ones where you're like packed in a little club, like Rockwood Music Hall 1, back when it was like just that one.
remember
That's
that.
like the best feeling, like
We saw him
you're
there.
sweating all together and everybody feels.
So, while you're talking, I was actually thinking about when you
Yeah.
told Ami, who Ami and Ami told me about Amos Lee.
Yeah,
Who was playing,
he-
and I remember watching Amos Lee. If you don't know who Amos Lee is, check him out.
Well, we
And
went to see
he-
Dove open for Amos Lee.
Yeah.
You and I,
Right.
pre-distant cousins, before I moved to LA, went to
Yeah, must have
Rockwood
been.
Music Hall.
Right.
Fools for
Yeah,
April.
Fools for April. Me and
Yeah.
Sealand's
Yeah.
opening for Amos Lee.
And
It was
Amos
awesome.
Lee is, I mean, you guys were great, obviously, but Amos.
Let's
Amos,
just say, there's another good example. Sorry, of like the behind the curtain. We weren't really opening for him. He happened to be playing.
That's why I said it
after
like
us.
that. That's why I said it like that.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
like there's a secret guest. You guys
Yeah.
want
You guys
to
are
show
close.
up.
Yeah.
You guys want to show up.
You'll edit that part out,
And
obviously, right?
and he,
Amos, come on in. Amos.
when he got on stage,
Yeah.
it was transformative. I still remember. I was
Yeah.
like, I didn't know a person could do this with their voice. The
Nice.
room
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
locked
Yeah.
in.
Exactly.
And I'm gonna give you guys a compliment. When you guys did acoustic Dimati at Debonair a few
Yeah.
weeks ago, it wasn't quite that. But the room, the
we're
room,
getting there.
the room locked in on you guys.
Yeah.
It was really special what you guys did with that song. So for the audience, also, it's like watching you guys perform. I think anyone who sees you perform gets the magic once
Yeah.
they see it.
Awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
So
And then
it's
the-
Hashem. They should see it. They should see it. Should we close with a
Yeah, another
with a
song. Well, yeah. So
Any
you
other
played
final
one
thoughts?
song where you drew from kind of like the pain of October 7th. Do you have one that's drawing from like the strength a little bit?
We do.
Yeah,
man.
Yeah. Can you play that one?
Let's try it.
Yeah.
We can
Enjoy
always
some
edit
strength.
it. All right.
Could try it. Yeah, we have
Yeah, so
A
this
few.
one called Me Ayin was actually also David kind of sent the beginning of this idea, and then we worked on it all together. But the idea of Me Ayin, of like the, in Psalms, not Nopi, just in Psalms, it says Me Ayin Yavo Ezri, from where does my help come? And then the answer that it gives is Ezri Me'im Hashem, like my help comes from Hashem. But this insight that we had heard from a friend was that if you just change the pronunciation, I guess, or the vowels rather, of the letters, like Me'im is Mem, Ayin, Mem, and so instead of Me'im, it's Me'am, from the nation, from the people. And so that was something that we were talking about, how like everybody was drawing strength from seeing the Jewish people in Israel and all over just completely come together and be there for each other. So that was where this one came from.
what key is this song in?
It's in C most of the time.
Most of the time.
Yeah.
Ready? All right. 1, 2, 1, 2, 2.
Out of the ashes, out of the fire, out of the place where dreams begin. I hear a heartbeat, I hear a whisper, I hear a symphony within. May I, may I, may I. Out of the darkness, out of the tears, out of the place where songs begin, into the spirit that can't be broken, a flood of light through the iron walls. Lift your eyes, lift your eyes. May I, may I, may I. Yavo, Yavo, standing by your side. May I, may I, may I.
Everybody stand up.
Eu vou assim. May I, may I, may I. Eu vou assim. May I, may I, may I, may I. Eu vou assim. Out of the ashes, out of the fire, out of the place where dreams begin.
Ami's house.
Ami on harmonica. Nice one, man.
You
That
actually
sounds
never
great.
did it like that. That was nice.
I think we may. But
Yeah, you
it's
do that
kind of hard.
tonight.
Yeah, I need a little.
You only need two of you, really, I think.
No,
There it is.
which two?
Thanks for stopping by.
Yeah.
house.
Guys, a special crossover episode, an
Yeah.
event of the
Hey,
century.
Promote the tour coming up.
Yes,
What's
we
coming
got
up?
new announcements, exciting announcements. We just wrapped up a tour with Matis Yahoo on the East Coast, and we're going to be doing the West Coast.
The best
which
coast?
Is really exciting for us. Having been born in the West Coast, distant cousins started in the West Coast. We're going to be doing the Troubadour in LA, which is super exciting.
What are the dates? Around what time?
In December.
December 10th through like the 20th.
Yeah.
An album is out now.
Album is out
What's it
now. The
called?
album is called Out of the Darkness, streaming on all platforms, everywhere you can find it, on all streaming platforms.
Cool.
Out of the Darkness. And
All right.
yeah, thank you for
Thank you,
sharing
Michael.
this crossover experience.
This
Michael,
was
hats
fun.
off to you.
This was
Thank
great.
you,
I
Ami, for
love-
having us in your house.
I love having all your
All right.
attention.
Thank you for inviting us to Michael's house.
Thank you for being gentle with me and going gentle on me. But that is Ami's house, Distant Cousins crossover. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. Out of the Darkness is out now. Thank you.